Yeah.
Yeah.
Requested by Al. Figured we open it up with the hottest thing in the game right now.
The hottest act in the WWE by a country mile.
And got over on his own.
Yep.
Gotta give credit where credit is due to L.A. Knight.
For sure. Welcome to the War Report, everybody. I'm having some pasta if you're watching a live stream. I'll try not to chew into the microphone. Hope everybody's having a good one. We got, a lot of wrestling to talk. AEW's got Blood and Guts coming up. They had the finals of the Owen Hart tournament over the weekend. WWE's got all kinds of stuff. We had new women's tag team champions last night. So, and of course, how could we forget today, as David Roscoe let us know, and Kat actually did send this through the group chat as well, so she knew. Happy Nadia Comaneci Day, everyone, because it's the 47th anniversary of the first ever Perfect 10 in Olympic gymnastics, which is a very big feat. Unfortunately, the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, Sean Spears did not win last night, or Saturday night, rather, Battle of the Belts. He did not win the TNT title. And also, David Roscoe, September 17th this year will be the 17th anniversary. Trish Stratus became the second Perfect 10 and the 30th anniversary. Oh, Jesus.
Got a hard on for it, man. I'll tell you what.
The ability to retain dates and years and all that, I can do it with some stuff, but like, it's real tough.
Listen, he's got a hard on. I gotta give him credit. But we do have a lot to cover. I guess we should probably start with SmackDown, right, from last week, because there were more developments in the Bloodline saga. And I still, I definitely am still at a point where I'm looking more forward to SmackDown every week than I am Raw. And that's that's not to say Raw hasn't been good. Raw's had its moments. It's still 3 hours, and I still think, 3 hours is just too long. And I think that's a part of the appeal to SmackDown. And then also the Bloodline, which has been the greatest storyline ever in professional wrestling. So it's definitely been something to look forward to. But so SmackDown, there were some takeaways to that show. It was an interesting show. Obviously, the Bloodline is the biggest takeaway. Anytime you put Paul Heyman in the ring to cut a promo, and how over Jay is, main event Jay defending his brother, and then the saga with Solo and his brothers, there's just so many layers, and it just shows you that you still look forward to it even when you know Roman's not going to be there. And then you look forward to it even that much more when you know Roman's going to be there, so it's kind of a win-win situation. But it was a great promo all around, from Jay to Roman to Heyman. I mean, it just all the way through. It was great. And to see Jay kind of be the one standing in the end was great.
Here's the thing. I think they could put those guys out there, and they have, every week, knowing they can perform, and the crowd goes wild for it. 2 hours is a sweet spot for a wrestling show, in my opinion. Raw is, and has been for a decade, an hour too long. Dynamite's easy to watch. Collision's easy to watch. SmackDown's easy to watch. NXT's easy to watch. Raw is hard to get through because it's the length of a Lord of the Rings movie every
Monday. Right. It's true.
You're watching the Lord of the Rings every week, or whatever long movie you want. Pick one. I don't know. Yeah.
Tara's back. Welcome to the show. Great.
Don't worry about being late. We didn't see you in the comments last week. We were concerned something happened, but I guess you were having phone troubles or something. So glad to see you're back. Yeah. So when you say it's interesting, and are you saying interesting? And like, I know that the positive interesting is the bloodline, but are you saying was there something that kind of stood out as odd to you, or you just thought it was interesting because it was like a compelling show?
No, just that it was a compelling show.
Okay.
It's like all the way through from start to finish, it grabbed you and it kept you interested in the show.
Because sometimes when people say interesting, they're like, oh, that's like they taste it. Hey, try this. And they eat it. And you're like, that's interesting. And
no, I don't. It was definitely nothing negative.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Tara was having issues with her phone. That's too bad. Yeah. So aside from the bloodline, kind of refresh my memory here because there's a lot that's been going on. And,
you know what? I'm kind of doing that myself.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to probably.
All right. Well, so one of the more compelling, interesting parts outside of the bloodline was the dynamic with Charlotte and Asuka and Bianca.
Oh,
to the point where Bianca was finally getting her rematch. No. Yeah, Bianca was getting her rematch. Charlotte was going to leave, but Io was lurking around with Bayley in the briefcase, so they decided to stay, but they were banned from ringside, so they bought tickets. Now they're front row, and then of course it ends in chaos. But it was well done, and it was good because you knew it was going to kind of end Fugazi, so it kind of ended the way I expected it to. But it was definitely an interest. I think they're just ultimately setting up a triple threat for SummerSlam. You're going to have Asuka versus Charlotte versus Bianca, which, that's going to be a hell of a match.
But think about also, it is going to be a hell of a match. But then does Io come out at some point in the match and pull a Seth Rollins and be added to the match and be the fourth person and win the title? Do they wait until two people get the shit kicked out of them and one person gets pinned and then that match is over and Io runs out?
My answer to that would normally be depends on if Io is going to go face or heel. But now you got Bayley with a knee injury, and I don't think we know the extent. I know she's tweeted out that she's going to be okay, whatever the fuck that means.
Right.
But does that mean she's going to miss time? So now you have all of Damage Control out except for Io. So now you can kind of do whatever you want with Io. My call would be to turn Io face and let her have a run. So if she does that, then I could see her adding herself as a fourth rather than waiting until the end of the match to then cash in and be it dirty.
So the babyface heel, the alignment depends on
the way she cashes in depends on if she's going to be heel or face.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
And statistically, no woman has ever lost a cash-in.
That's true. That's very true.
Right? We're not talking about the men's. So I could see Io with a run. But I think part of me would still be a little upset because I still feel Asuka deserves an extended title run. Any title run she's ever had has been pretty short-lived. So
And not that Bianca Belair didn't do a good job, but that is the problem. Not a problem, I suppose, if you have a good champion. But like you've got so many talented people, and one person's the champion for that long. Even in I guess in the old school days when you visited a town once or twice a year, having the same champion for 4 years, like Hulk Hogan or Bob Backlund or whatever, doesn't matter. But on TV every week, it's kind of a different beast. Bianca's great. I mean, Bianca did a great job, and it was a WrestleMania to WrestleMania story. It was kind of like a 2-year story, not just a 1-year story. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was opportunity in the mid. Like there were down times in the middle of Bianca's run where they could have freshened it up and had a title. Like you can give you could have her lose to somebody and freshen it up and then win it back.
Well, maybe I'm hoping that whatever takes place at SummerSlam, in the end, whether Bianca goes heel or not, she needs to align with the new Hurt Business because that seems to be in motion now too.
Yep, that's on the way.
Right, where you had Bobby Lashley meeting with the Street Profits in his limo. So now rumors are we're going to have a new Hurt Business, which it would make sense to have a woman involved Bianca would be perfect. And you can do it heel or face, quite honestly.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see where that goes and how that all plays. You also had an U.S. Invitational Fatal 4-Way match with AJ, Butch, Escobar, and Grayson Waller. And
they're really pushing that Grayson Waller guy.
They really are. And I got to tell you, an outstanding. He's not bad, and his finish is awesome. He is outside the ring. He runs, rolls through the bottom rope into an RKO, basically. It's like a rolling RKO or whatever they're calling it, but it's awesome. Great match, and surprisingly and happy, Santos Escobar goes over.
That's so.
That says something also that they put him over, especially with those other names like AJ and Santos, although they're continuing the AJ
100%
Karrion Kross feud. So, which I don't know how it's really considered a feud when Karrion doesn't win any of them. But
I don't know. But
and then Sheamus and Ridge Holland had a tag match against Pretty Deadly, which, as much as I hate to say it because I can't stand Pretty Deadly, was actually a pretty good match.
But now one of the guys is injured.
Yeah, well, it made it a good match because now one of them's out. I think the blonde one is the one that's out. So I guess we won't have to deal with them for a while. So I'm good with that result, to be honest with you.
You're good with the injury result. So we're talking about Io potentially taking the title off of Asuka, and whether or not it's too soon. And we sort of brought up the bloodline. I got a little bit of a thing to ask you because I know I've said it a couple, I think I've said it a lot over the last couple weeks, but I've got a context example for you. Since we're talking about title changes at SummerSlam, I think Jay should win against Roman and take the title. And even if it's like Lex Luger beating Hollywood Hogan, who got the title back the next week and then ended up carrying it until Starrcade to face Sting. I mean, at this point, you've broken all the records except for like Bruno's. So, and you're not going to hit Bruno's because it's 7 years. Put the title on Jay and then have Roman blindside him and win it back the next SmackDown or something. I don't know. Like, it would just be, it would validate a lot of this bloodline stuff because the story is, oh, everybody loses to Roman and nobody gets over. Well, fuck. I mean, let's get these cats over.
I don't know if I can agree with you on this one. I don't know how to feel because they're over. They don't need he doesn't need the title to be over, first of all.
Yeah, I know, but having him win the belt. I know when the reasons that I didn't like Cody potentially winning at WrestleMania are the same reasons I like Jay potentially winning at SummerSlam, because it's the Usos story, with Roman, obviously. But like, this started off with Jay, we've talked about it a lot, where this thing was just the Usos and Roman. Then you added Solo, then you added Sammy. But Cody came in, but those were moving parts. Now KO and Sammy are doing their own thing. Cody's doing his own thing. These bloodline guys are still, even though we had that bloodline civil war and that was supposed to be the end of it, we're still weeks later dealing with the fallout of that civil war. And we've got another match coming up between the two guys. So like, I don't know, man. The argument is, where does it go from there if Jay wins? And I'm like, doesn't have to necessarily go. Like, he doesn't need to hold the title for a year. Jay could win in a shocking upset, and then the next week, literally, just, rematch clause. Roman, Solo jumps in before the match. Roman wins and gets it. I out of all the guys, Sammy was the closest to should have winning the title, and then Jay, in my mind, like those, and Jay now, I think, has a stronger claim to being the one to dethrone Roman, because we keep talking about who it's going to be. I think it's right now. It should be. A couple months ago when you asked me in February, March, it was Sammy. Now it's Jay. Like I don't know. You can't Gunther. You'd have to have Gunther go undefeated. Gunther and Roman would have to go undefeated all the way into WrestleMania, and then Gunther would have to beat Roman, but then he'd have to vacate the U.S. title, or he'd have to lose the title before facing Roman, and then he just lost before WrestleMania. I don't know how you're going to, some of these younger guys, how do you get Grayson Waller? If you want to make a guy like Grayson Waller or he's so bad I can't even remember his name. The guy with the teeth, he takes selfies. He's ugly. Vince McMahon really liked him. He was the U.S. champion. He gave him that guy. He stinks. But if you're trying to make him, you have him beat like you set him up to beat Roman. And not that Jay and Jimmy aren't made. They're over and they're made. But there's something about that singles title that tastes a little sweeter and means a little more to fans. When you go, oh yeah, my favorite wrestler is Jey Uso. Well, is he a world champion? Well, he's a world tag team champion. That doesn't count. My favorite wrestler is Roddy Piper. Was he a world champion? He was an intercontinental champion. That doesn't count. It doesn't taste the same. Hulk Hogan, world champion. Ric Flair, world champion. Roman Reigns, it tastes different when you win that singles title. You know what I mean?
I get it, dude, but I don't know. Like I could see Jay winning. I just don't think Roman is losing anytime soon. I don't think it's happening at Summers. I think if Roman loses, he loses at Mania. I don't think he loses before that. That's just my opinion. I don't know. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, man. It's a tough
I'm not saying I wouldn't like it.
Right. I think it's it's certainly an option, man. Like, because there are some guys when they challenge, like, you're just like, Kevin Owens. I like Kevin Owens, but like Kevin Owens wasn't going to beat, no matter how many times he faced Roman, he wasn't going to beat him. Like, at least Jay, it kind of feels like this guy could do it. I don't know. Like, again, it's a tough thing to say. Do you end a historic title run? They've had the option. Do we end a historic title run to hotshot somebody and get them over, or solidify them with a world singles title? And they didn't do it for Sammy, and they didn't do it for Cody. I don't know if they're saving, you know what I mean? If you're quote unquote saving Roman's title loss, are you saving it for Jay? Or but if we keep saving it, who are we saving it for? You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where.
But I feel like if they are saving it, they have something in mind.
They might already. Yeah, I guess they probably already have a plan. But
I'm sure they have a plan, and plans can always change. But I don't know. I feel like the reign needs to continue. I think that's what I'm having a problem with. It's not even so much that it's Jay or Sammy or Cody. I just think the reign should continue.
But what? And I don't just what's the reasoning behind wanting the? Is it just because it's a historic streak? Is it because somebody hasn't stepped up yet that feels worthy enough? Like, what's the?
I'm afraid that the WWE is never going to be able to pull off such a compelling story ever again, and I don't want it to end. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Because there's no need to worry. It's not going to happen for another 10 or 20 years. When's the last time anybody was talking about this shit? It was DX and Stone Cold and the NWO. You know what I mean? Like, wrestling, not that it's that hot again, but wrestling is the hottest it's been in probably 20-something years. Right now.
They just have to figure out a way to keep the bloodline story going somehow and make it still compelling. Like, have a bloodline versus bloodline storyline. Let Jay be the tribal chief of one, Roman the other, and now they battle. You know what I mean? There's so many other people within the bloodline that they can make that work.
Can they bring back the Great Khali's bamboo cage so we can have a bamboo bloodline cage match?
I mean, we only got one of them, and it was a train wreck, but sure.
Oh, I think we got two. I think they had to make their money back on the cage.
It was the Punjabi prison match.
The Punjabi prison.
That's what it was. Punjabi prison match.
See, I think the bloodline bamboo cage sounds a lot better. Like, and then you can repurpose it. Like, I'm sure there's bamboo in Samoa. Somebody correct me. I have no idea.
They just have to like create a Isle of Samoa setting and just beat the shit out of each other.
I remember one time I said Roman should be out sitting on the beach, like cutting a promo, like relaxing on the beach, and a plane or a helicopter should land, and the Usos should just come and like beat the shit out of him. Like, that would be such a fun thing. Roman's not there for like 3 weeks, and like he's on the island of relevancy, and he's like via satellite like The Rock, and he's just drinking drinks out of coconuts and shit. And he's like, I'm on the Isle of Relevancy, and then like week 4. He's talking. You see a helicopter touchdown behind him. He doesn't even realize he's drinking his drink. He's talking to the camera. The Usos run out and just boom. And that could be your like go home angle for a pay-per-view.
That would be hilarious.
Because I like the island of relevancy thing, but it's just a metaphor. And Roman being a kingpin, a lot of it is metaphorical. And it's not that he doesn't wear nice suits and he doesn't sit at a boardroom table and have like Paul Heyman behind him, but I like Ric Flair had the jets and the limos and all that. Like I want Roman to flex a little bit and be like, yeah, I'm this guy. If I'm the kingpin and I'm the tribal chief, I've got all the nice stuff. So him being on it, like him literally taking a vacation and being like, I don't need to defend my title for another 30 days. I'm going on vacation would be such a thing that somebody of his character would do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. No, there's so many things they can do. And we just have to get through SummerSlam first. And we're going to get Roman versus main event Jay. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to deliver. I don't know what the finish is, but I think the match, knowing what we know and seeing how well those guys work together and seeing them work together in the past.
Well, they're going to continue to tell a great story.
Yeah. But you wonder is, we've also talked about this a bit, Solo, where he fits in all this. Because Solo, they're hinting that Roman is like, kind of losing it or not focused or he's cracking under the stress and all this stuff. And Solo is constantly the one that has to like shake him out of it. And eventually it's kind of like he's like Mike on Breaking Bad. And Mike would always help Walter out. And Walter was a hothead. And Mike always had to clean up his messes. And then at one point, Mike was like, I'm just going to do my own. I don't need to associate with this guy anymore. Because why am I going to clean up his messes when I can just be my own boss or whatever? So, is there a potential, not necessarily takeover of the bloodline, but kind of having an inside man where all of a sudden during one of these matches, Solo turns on Roman is like, I'm just sick of having to be your bodyguard all the time. And then now you've got the Usos and
then
Solo.
Heyman becomes Solo's wise man.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week. Cody, they had Cody say that promo for the reason, a Roman without a reigns, a chief without a tribe, and all that other stuff. And he's gonna leave, and he's gonna leave, and and like they wouldn't have him say it if it wasn't gonna happen, or at least seem like it's gonna happen. So I feel like Solo is Solo's the linchpin on this thing. If Solo sticks by Roman, Roman keeps the title. If Solo sticks with his brothers, who right now he's completely different. They wear black pants, he wears white pants. They have dark hair, he has bleach blonde hair. They have long hair, he has short hair. You know what I mean? Like he is Solo. The reason he is Solo is to kind of separate himself because he's not Uso. They didn't call him, Uso. They chose Solo Sikoa. They didn't choose Sikoa Uso or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there was a reason they chose to not associate him with that. And that's to make him his own dude, right. So I don't know. I'm hoping that he's the guy that we wanted Umaga to be, or making his wrestling debut or one of his early wrestling matches over this weekend was Umaga's son, who had spent time in prison, convicted, did his time, got out, decided he wanted to better his life, trained to become a wrestler, and now he's wrestling. If the WWE can look past,
and apparently very good,
right? Yeah, no, I mean, listen, he's part of that family. They're all good. They all pick up the basics. They've been probably wrestling in the backyard since they were 2 years old, so they all know what to do. Yeah, so I have, not that I have high hopes for him. I just, he's one of those guys like Jacob Fatu that you just wish like things for. You wish good things for these like these second tier Usos and whatever the other names are in the family. You know what I mean? They're just like they're the next rung down. We're waiting to see them break out. And Jacob Fatu could go to WWE right now and be in this bloodline thing, no problem. And I don't know, maybe Umaga's son here, maybe he's the next guy in 5 years or 8 years or whatever, going, hey, there's another Samoan coming up in NXT. Did you hear, speaking of NXT, that they brought in Brian Pillman Jr. for a tryout for NXT?
I did hear that.
I like Brian a lot. I've ran into him a couple times, worked some shows with him. But yeah, there was always something a little missing. Like, I don't necessarily know what it is. It's one of those things that I can't put my finger on. It's like, it's not that he's a bad wrestler, and it's not that he's bad. Like, nothing he does is bad. But I think the real problem he has is when you look like him and you look like your dad, the same way D.H. Smith looked like the British Bulldog. You're like, oh, well, he looks just like him. He's going to wrestle just like him. And he doesn't. Or maybe he's going to cut a promo just like him, and he kind of doesn't. So it's like, you're being like, you hate to get compared to your legendary deceased father in your profession. That's like being Babe Ruth Jr. and trying to go out there and everybody's like, you stink. So like, it's a real tough comparison. Yeah, but it's going to happen. He did all right with AEW. The Varsity Blondes thing was fine, but then like you put him with Griff Garrison, and Griff is like bigger. He's a little bit more ripped. He can wrestle better. Like Griff Garrison is now doing big things for the Ring of Honor brand as a singles guy. And I think, he's one of those dudes that I think there's plans for him to kind of be a bigger singles guy down the line once he gets a little more experience. But Brian Pillman Jr., I don't know. I hope he does well, or I hope that if they decide to take him at 29 years old, not that that's too late for anybody. DDP started at 34 or whatever. But if they're willing to invest in him, I'm hoping that they can then turn it around. And it's not just, hey, we signed Brian Pillman Jr., let's put him out there to do what he was doing in AEW, which wasn't working. So I don't know.
Question is, what do you do with him?
Because if he's not the loose cannon, you know what I mean? It's almost like he should have started wrestling as, under a mask, wrestle with a fake name for a couple years until somebody's like, oh, aren't you Brian Pillman's kid? But like being Brian Pillman Jr. opened a lot of doors to him. He wouldn't have got a lot of indie bookings if he wasn't Brian Pillman Jr. He wouldn't have got to AEW if he wasn't Brian Pillman Jr. Like that the name still holds a lot of, goodwill with wrestling people. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, contract just got expired with AEW, and then like the next week or something was off to NXT.
Well, I wish him all the best. We'll see.
Yeah,
but it ultimately is going to come down to what they do with him,
for real,
gimmick wise.
Oh yeah, the gimmick that's what it is. That's where he's been lacking.
Because we know he can wrestle, and he's got the look because he does look like his father.
Right. We just need to get that something in there. Killer instinct. I don't know. But if you're following the video, Monday Night Raw on the bottom of the screen here. What do you again, it was I know what happened, and it was a long show. I'm probably just gonna have to pull this up to follow along with exactly what was going on.
Well, we kicked off with a little Cody Rhodes, hometown of Georgia.
Right.
Crowd went nuts, cut a great promo, as Cody always does. Called out Brock, didn't come out. Called out Brock, didn't come out. Finishes his promo, jumps out of the ring. Mom's front row. Sister, I think, is front row.
Right.
Gives him hugs, and as he's hugging his mother, Brock's music hits.
Fantastic.
Cody goes heading up the ramp. No Brock. Music stops playing. Brock's music hits again. Cody now storms to the back and gets met with a chair. And a brawl ensued with Brock Lesnar just dominating Cody. And then ultimately F5ing him outside of the ring in front of his mother. Then putting him in the lock. Then throwing him in the ring, putting him in the Kimura lock again. And then accepting his challenge to SummerSlam and walking out. And that's how Raw started.
Yeah. I mean, that all sounds good. That all sounds about what they should be doing to build for this match.
It was definitely a great way to open.
Sometimes you almost say somebody's too good at something. Cody's so good at being the guy that gets his ass kicked all the time. Why would, like, if you're Vince McMahon or Triple H, why wouldn't you just be like, hey, go out there and get your ass kicked every single time? You know what I mean? Like, he just sells the beating so well.
And Brock is so good at giving it. The facial expressions, the way he looked at Cody's mother and then just smiled. Like, you know, you got to give Brock some flowers also. Brock is,
Brock is
good. He knows what he's
phenomenal,
doing. But they both, I mean, it was just a great opening segment. And then that moved into Matt Riddle versus Gunther. Was definitely another great match. Kaiser and Vici were banned from ringside, so this was going to be a fair match now. And another great match, but Gunther pulled it out. And let me just tell you, he gave some chops to Matt Riddle that would have made a normal person's heart stop.
I'm sure.
I mean, holy shit, the echo of some of them were some of the loudest chops I've ever heard in my life.
Caves his chest in, man. That's crazy.
Unbelievable. I mean, there is, and you know, it's funny, and I'm not going to take credit for this, but I was listening to Busted Open, and Bully and Tommy Dreamer were talking about this match. And Tommy Dreamer made an excellent point. Whenever somebody gives a chop, what does the crowd do?
Woo.
Except when you're Gunther.
Yeah.
You notice nobody woos because that's a Gunther chop. And it is more badass than any Ric Flair woo chop. I mean, that chop is on another fucking level.
Right. Rick was hitting you with 6 of them because he wasn't hitting you hard. He was just hitting you with a bunch of them. Yeah. It's almost like this. The example I'm going to give, except you don't need to indicate to the crowd. It was like when the Big Show would do a chop and he'd go, shh, and then he'd chop them. But you don't need to shush the crowd because the crowd already knows, oh boy, here it comes.
Especially when it's Gunther winding up, because his chops are just...
Winding up is a good way. Yeah, he winds up, man. Holy Moses.
So after that, you have a backstage segment where Raquel and Liv are getting interviewed. And once again, Rhea Ripley gets involved.
Yeah.
And that starts a scuffle. And in this scuffle, Rhea kicks Raquel's knee. They pull it apart. And now the trainers are checking out Raquel to see if she can even defend the titles. Raquel tells the trainer, I'm not doing this again. I'm not vacating. I'm fine. I can go. The trainer says she should be able to go. So the match is still on. But that's ultimately how they lost, because she was not good to go. And in the end, your new women's tag champions are Kelsey and Sonya Deville. And I got to tell you, I'm not upset about it. I love what they're doing with this whole Karen gimmick with Chelsea. I think she's doing a great job. Sonya's just a killer. I'm not hating it.
No, I get why they had to have what happened with Ronda and Shayna.
Because of the exit. I mean, everything was fast forwarded, of course. It's
but what I'm saying
rushed.
is,
I know where you're going.
But I understand why they had to do it with a babyface team and have a big babyface title change moment. But I mean, why wouldn't we just have Chelsea and Sonya against Shayna and Ronda at the pay-per-view and have Shayna turn on her, and then the Karen and her friend there.
The only reason why I can think that they wouldn't do that is because it's heel on heel and, this, that, and the other. But I don't disagree with you. I think it's kind of shitty that you throw it on them for a week or two and then they lose it again. But it also looks like this is going to work out for Raquel. Because
I was just going to say on the flip side, right?
They're lining up her and Rhea Ripley for the title, which
big singles push, yeah.
Which is great because now Rhea's finally going to get some real competition too.
Yeah, I mentioned this last week. This is Raquel's opportunity to kind of shine here on the main roster. And I know she came in with a lot of hype from NXT, and she was a former women's champion and all that stuff in NXT. And, there was a lot of support for her. She's fine. Not that she's bad at anything she does, but it's very much, I come out, I smile,
she's missing something.
I pose. They say, oh, look at how big her back is. And I I understand what they're saying because it's like a bodybuilder thing. Look at the size of the muscles. But like,
But I'm over it already.
if I ever went up to a woman and say, "Oh man, your back is so big," I'd be smacked to the fucking moon. Like, you don't say that.
Not only that, but like it's old already.
It
Like
is, yeah.
I'm tired of seeing her come out, turn around, flex her back muscle. Like I don't give a shit.
Right.
And then
she
you're all
needs more.
smiles. Like she needs to be a heel, first of all. She needs to be a heel, and she just needs to be destroying people.
Didn't they have a thing where she was like the Diesel to somebody's Sean?
Yeah, that was Was it Mandy Rose?
It might have been. Yeah, but that worked. Like,
No. Or was it Dakota Kai? I don't even fucking
Oh, it
remember.
might have been Dakota Kai, but you know what I mean, where it's like a big, small, like she works in the Diesel role. And then Diesel became a main eventer. Like, that's a real thing. Diesel became world champion. So, like, it's not a knock on her saying she's Diesel, but like, I don't know. I just think she just needs something. She needs a little.
Something's missing, but maybe what's missing will come out in this singles. I tell you what I'm more concerned about in this whole thing now is what's going to happen to Liv Morgan.
Oh,
because now you break up her team. I mean,
it's nice of you to be concerned because I don't know who else.
Listen, she's fucking over, dude. She's over, dude. And the little kids love her. So, and listen, she's gotten better. I mean, she is decent. So she's but you have to have the right story. And you have to figure out what her gimmick is. Like, is she going to be the crazy blonde chick or is she going to be, Happy Liv? You know what I mean? Because when she's with Raquel, she's just like Happy Liv. When she's on her own, she's like fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Which the nuts gimmick works if, she does it right.
Yeah. But is she, are they going to keep her with Raquel as like backup because she's going against a faction and there's multiple people that can interfere? Or are they just going to seem like they're just separating those two together? Or maybe, here's probably what it is. They'll be together for a couple weeks. Liv's going to be her friend, this and that. And then Rhea has to fight Liv before she fights Raquel and just beats the piss out of her. And then that's like extra motivation for Raquel.
Yeah, I can see that. And then they're friends until Liv wants a title shot or something. And then that's how you turn Raquel heel. I mean, there's a bunch of things you can do. All right, so moving on. Alpha Academy versus the Viking Raiders in a Vikings match, which is a no DQ falls count anywhere match. But I do appreciate they put a lot of effort into this match, dude. They had outside of the ring towards the ramp, they had the front of the boat, so it looked like they were on a boat. And it was a Viking thing, and they had it. Just the presentation was cool. The things they had set up, the Viking stuff all around the ring and all that. It was a great match. Ultimately, the Viking Raiders won, which I'm happy with because I feel like the Viking Raiders have not been winning that many matches lately. So I was
going to say they haven't won a lot recently at all.
Well, right. So I was kind of happy to see them get over. And the girl, what's her name? The blonde in the Alpha Academy. Well, whatever. She got her jacket back, but then got speared through a table. And the spot was perfect. I mean, it couldn't have gone over better. It was a nice, clean break through the table. So it was a great segment. And I was glad to see the Viking Raiders get over because they definitely have not been getting over as much. So.
Oh yeah, and unfortunately, with there was different injuries and stuff like that, and they were off TV and not quite, what they once were. So maybe this is a nice return to form for our friends, the Viking Raiders, because I know they've got this excuse me, KO and Sammy have both the tag team titles or the unified tag team titles. I don't even know what we're calling it at this point. So it's just nice to see another tag team kind of being the focus of something or getting put. So maybe they're the next challengers. I really don't know, but it's just good to see them, getting wins and getting back on TV.
Yeah, I have no idea where. I don't know where it's headed. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, hopefully they keep winning because since they went heel, they hadn't been winning. So it's good to see. Next, you had Shayna Baszler, Nikki Cross, which lasted all about 30 seconds.
Oh, my God.
I mean, literally, the bell rang. Shayna put her in the in the Kirifuda clutch or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh my word!
And made her tap. And then Ronda Rousey, you could hear her voice. She's sitting up in the balcony and cuts another Ronda Rousey promo, which was nothing to write home about.
Right.
And it's basically just hyping up the match for SummerSlam. But it was a little promo work, but nobody touched. And that's kind of how that segment ended. It was
now what's the deal here? Initially it was like a heel turn from Shayna on Ronda, but then I'm hearing that the crowd reaction is that Ronda is the heel and the people like Shayna. Is that right?
Well, that's kind of the thing too, because Shayna still gets booed. So, but they're both getting booed. But I mean, in the end, Shayna's going to go over as the face in this match. Because I think people like Shayna and want to see Ronda get her ass whooped. So, but it's kind of mixed more for Shayna. It's kind of like, I feel like people aren't sure if they're supposed to be cheering for her or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's kind of that gray area. So we'll see. But I think the only saving grace in this match is going to be Shayna. So hopefully it goes off without a hitch. But I could definitely see where we don't see Ronda Rousey again for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, if at all.
Yeah.
They're talking about her. They're talking about her making an MMA comeback, which first of all sounds patently ridiculous because, and it's not that she's past her prime, but she's been out of the game, not training for it for so long. She had a baby. She's obviously not as physically sharp as she once was, even to the point where she's not as physically sharp as she once was at her WrestleMania debut in New Orleans, where she had that fucking fantastic match and looked like a goddamn superstar.
Yeah, but if she trains hard enough, she can get there.
Maybe, the last time you saw her in an MMA ring, she was literally getting her head kicked off. So hopefully she doesn't just go back out there and get fucking tuned up again like that. But yeah, I think she's...
Well, and that's just it. It would be pretty fucking embarrassing if she left and went back to MMA to get her ass whooped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be for sure. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But it does seem that, she's done. She had some kind of injury or something. This was probably meant to be my deal expires at WrestleMania thing, but because she had some time off, it's now SummerSlam. I really don't know, though. I'm just assuming based on the timing.
Listen, my feeling is this. You don't want to be here, then go.
Right.
It's that simple. You're not going to perform at your best if your heart's not in it.
Right.
And if you don't want to be there, then get the fuck out. Thanks for coming. It was great while you were here.
Right.
And if you want to come back, great. If not, okay. Good luck in MMA or whatever else you choose to do. I'm good with it.
Punk, yeah, Punk didn't wrestle for 78 years. You know what I mean? Like, he was gone.
Right.
So,
and look at him now.
Yeah.
But your heart has to be in it.
Exactly.
This is not the kind of business that you can fake to make it. You got to either love it or you got to just know like what you're getting into, because you're away from people that you love and you're away from everyday things for a long time if you become somebody of importance on that roster.
Right.
Next you had Miz TV. Becky Lynch is the guest. And she really gets right up in Miz's face and says, let's get on with the bullshit. I know you got other people coming out because that's what you do. And then sure enough, Trish and Zoe come out. Promo ensues where ultimately Trish agrees to a one-on-one match with Becky at SummerSlam. And then a melee breaks out where Becky gets over on the two of them. It was okay. The promo was okay, but it was what it was. It was just a way to set up the match.
Yeah, it's never... Listen, whenever you say, and the next segment is Miz TV, I'm not like champing at the bit to listen to it. So, but that's fine. Good to know that it went well. Your favorite wrestler, Zoe Stark, is back out there.
Moving on, we have...
I was like, did he just sign off after I said that? I thought you just left and we're like, okay, guys, we got to go.
It took me a while to process what you said, unfortunately.
Your favorite wrestler, yeah.
Fucking bitch. I can't stand it. Shinsuke Nakamura, Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
Great match. Shinsuke gets pissed because Ciampa winds up costing Nakamura the match, and Shinsuke's tired of people getting involved in his matches and him losing because of it. So Bronson Reed technically wins by DQ.
Right.
But it was a good match while it was.
Yeah, and
I'm a big fan of Bronson Reed. I'm a real big fan.
I'm a big fan of Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso's going to get to wrestle Nakamura. That match is going to be awesome.
Yeah, that should be great. But Bronson, I expect big things out of him. I'm a big fan of him. He's another one that can really move, and the size that he is just massive. So I always,
big boy.
I always get behind shit like that. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens versus the Judgment Day. It was a good match. They wound up putting the titles on the line because Kevin Owens flipped out and started yelling and screaming and said, "Screw it, let's put the titles on the line." And they got over. And that was pretty much Raw. That was your main event.
It seems doesn't it seem every time Kevin Owens talks, you're like, uh-oh, something's going to happen between him and Sammy. Like, he's just on the razor's edge of, like, snapping and power bombing Sammy all over again.
Well, no, now it's Sammy being like, Kevin, how would you like to respond to this? Do you have anything you would like to say? Like, knowing that he's going to explode. And then Sammy will be like, by the way,
redirecting it, yeah.
Right. By the way, Kev, nothing you could say could be wrong right now. Nothing is off limits. And Kevin will look and be like, yeah, really? Well, in that case, and then he just starts going, and he's like, oh, the hell with it. Let's put the titles on, and then he'll look at Sammy and be like, that's okay. And Sammy's like, that's okay. And then, so it's funny. It's
right. But it's there. It's one of those things that they're leaning into his comedy now. But like, I don't know, man, I'm feeling Festival of Friendship. Like, not now, but soon. Like, I'm smelling the Festival of Friendship happening.
I could see it happening, but not anytime soon. I think
it's still too hot,
too early.
Yeah, once it cools off. Yeah. And that was the whole of Raw, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much Raw.
Yeah, I'm just going through there. So there was some other like little ticky tack stuff like Ricochet and Logan Paul, who, like, whatever. We don't need, honestly, I don't need to hear from either of them until SummerSlam. I get it. You're putting the two flippy guys in the flippy guy match. We just want to see the match. I don't want to see Ricochet cut a promo. Nobody wants to see that. Not even Ricochet wants that.
No, his promo work still sucks.
He's the one cutting the promo. He doesn't even want to be there. Yeah.
We should also mention, since last week, we did lose a wrestler. Mantar.
Oh, yes. God, that's right.
I pretty much only knew him as Mantar, the horrible fucking gimmick that didn't last very long. But apparently he had a long history in wrestling, which I didn't really know much about him.
And that's the other thing. He doesn't.
This is where you need Eric, but he's not here this week.
Right. But I mean, even that, like, what was his name? Mike. I believe his name was Mike. Yeah, Mike Halac, Halac. And from all accounts, I mean, he was Bruiser Mastino. That was like his big. That was the name everybody knew him by. Even like Cornette, even years later, would call him Bruiser Mastino and talking about him in videos and stuff. Yeah, Mantar was his only real national acclaim. There's something on here about being Gold Dust's bodyguard, but I couldn't tell you how long that was for. It couldn't have been for very long. And then he was in ECW. Yeah,
apparently he was in ECW.
He was in ECW for a year in between his two WWF stints. He played Mantar, then went to ECW for a year, and then in '96 came back and appeared at In Your House 7 in Goldust's corner as an unnamed bodyguard. And then he rolled in the ring to attack the Ultimate Warrior and body slammed by the Ultimate Warrior. They brought him back in '97 as part of the Truth Commission. Holy shit. And he had one match in WCW. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
See a lot, but he's been around.
But no, he was definitely around. Oh, type 2 diabetes. That's fucking rough. 55. Oh, man. Oh, that really sucks. Passed away at 55 from type 2 diabetes. That's,
Way too young.
man. That's way too young. I didn't even think, because you look at him. I mean, Mantar, of course, he's got fur on and black eye paint and all this stuff. You can't tell how old he was, but like, I would have guessed he was in his 60s or 70s if you tell me that he just recently passed away. Him only being 55 and looking 35 when he played Mantar 30 years ago. It's like the math was a little off for me, man. Oh, that's so, yeah. It's really tough when you see somebody like, even if it's not somebody that's a big name, because it's just like, you always know somebody that knows this guy. If you're in wrestling, you know somebody that knows this guy. I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people who were friends with him and were were very upset. Some people were kind of mad. So this is an interesting thing, bringing this up. Whatever convention was over this weekend and Mantar passed away, the convention put out a condolences thing, and then was also like, but since he can't appear, here's who's appearing in his place, X, Y, and Z. Vito, Big Vito, from the WWF, WCW, he made a Facebook post calling out the promoter of that convention, saying it was like a disgusting tactic to use the Facebook post of, your convention to both give condolences and then promote the replacement and all that. And I absolutely see his side to that. And then the funniest thing happened. Val Venus shared that Facebook status from Big Vito. And he said, hey guys, just so you know, if I die and I'm supposed to be at a convention or on a show, it's completely okay for you to book somebody else to fill my spot. Because guess what? I'm not going to be there. I'm like, Val. And I get everybody's side in this. Because if you're an old school carny, yeah, the guy died. We gotta fill a spot. But if you're a human, you're like, hey, let's be respectful. Maybe announce his replacement next week or something.
You know what? At the end of the day, I do see both sides, but the reality is the show must go on.
Yeah.
And people are going to want to know who the replacement is.
Right. Yeah. So maybe it was just the way that promoter phrased it. I don't know, but it was just the way that first Vito was like, hey man, this was people's friend. What are you doing? And then Val's response of just like, well, I'm not going to make it, so I hope somebody else can use that table. I'm like, oh, all right.
That's funny.
Val Venus's booth is empty and you don't fill it. Yeah. But Mantar, 55 years old, man, that is absolutely rough. RIP Mike. Damn, dude. We're towards the top of the hour here. Trying out this 9 o'clock hour for our podcast. I hope people are enjoying it. I'm going to go into Photoshop. I've had a hell of a week between working a couple jobs that I've been working, and just didn't have time to make a new graphic to let everybody know that we're on at 9 p.m. on Tuesday evenings now, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can catch us live streaming on Facebook. If you're connected with Steve on LinkedIn, we're on Twitch, we're on Twitter and YouTube, all broadcasting, streaming live 9 p.m. on Eastern time. How do I keep saying 7 when the show hasn't been on at 7 o'clock in 5 years? What am I doing? It's really funny. I'm like, 7 o'clock, because that was the original start time for probably 3-4 years, and then we changed it, but it's just been in my head. So I'll create a new graphic to let people know 9 o'clock. We'll update our social medias with it. But YouTube, it's TagMeADate, no spaces, it's all one word. Twitch.tv/War Report, WARREPORT, that's all one word. And then all the other social media, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Look for TagMeADate at TagMeADate. We also have a group called the War Report on Facebook where we live stream this too. And this is one where it's not like it's a public group where you can join it, but it's one of those things that you have to like click on and be like, hey, join this, because we've got 150, 200 people in there. We share wrestling news. We share whether the show is canceled or postponed or pushed back, or if we're changing start times. We share a lot of the updates in that Facebook group. So if you find the Tag Me a Date page, you might also find the War Report group linked to it, or you'll just it's around there. If you find us anywhere on social media, or any of us that are hosts of the show, you'll see that War Report group, and you can always send us a message and we'll link you to it. But that's where we post a lot of the updates, which is why I bring it up. But for the most part, you're going to look for @TagMeADate on social media. Please give us a follow. It always helps. Liking, sharing, commenting, all that stuff helps. So anything you can do, with your thumbs there, give us a little like, give us a little share, whatever it is you can do. We really appreciate it. If you prefer an audio version instead of a video version, because you can go back to like our Twitch or our YouTube or whatever and go back in the archive and listen to some old shows, just, kind of scroll down there. But if you prefer the audio versions rather than seeing a live stream or YouTube version, you can go to your favorite podcast app. We have an audio only version of the podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, wherever you want. We're there. Just give us a subscribe. If you put in the War Report, just be aware that there are 2 wrestling podcasts called the War Report, but we make sure that the graphic on the page and the description of the podcast mentions TagMeADate. You'll know it's us when you're subscribing. They're just 2 different War Reports. Make sure you're subscribing to us. And last but not least, if you're really enjoying us and you think you need more of me, this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on 959thefox.com or 95.9 The Fox in Fairfield County, Connecticut. You can listen to all of your favorite modern rock hits. And then in between songs, you can listen to me tell you about all the things that are going on in Fairfield County that weekend. And I throw in some wrestling trivia, I throw in some movie trivia, just talking about different things on the show. And that's 959thefox.com. Is it 959 The Fox or 959 Fox? Whatever it is, I should know it. But it's 959 The Fox is the name of the radio station. And then anytime I need anything, I'm dumb. I'm real, I don't know if I'm dumb or smart. Anytime I need to know anything, I just type into Google. I put 959 The Fox, and then I hit enter, and then it shows me where I should actually go. So just do what I do. If you're looking for the War Report, just do that too. I did the same thing. The War Report, TagMeADate. You put it in Google, all that shit will come up. I'm absolutely certain. But we'll be back next week, 9:00 Eastern time on Tuesday evening. In the meantime, like I said, share the link, give it a like, whatever. Let your friends know about it. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'm sure your friends, if they're wrestling fans, would also love to give it a listen. Spread the love. Helping us get a bigger following only helps us do more content for you. And, if we get bigger numbies, maybe we do more shows a week, or maybe we just have, we have a little bit bigger of a presence to be able to provide you guys more content, when we're on the air. But anyway, sharing, liking, subscribing, and letting your friends just know about the War Report really does help us out so much. So that's going to do it for us this week. And anything else, Steve?
I think that's it. We'll be
all
back
right.
next week.
That's it. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be back at full strength next week. We had a couple people missing. Real life calls. It happens. And not that Steve and I can't sit here and talk about wrestling for an hour. We absolutely can, and we will. And we've done it before. But we like having everybody on. We love having people in the comments, throwing in their comments and asking the questions. We love having David come on and give us history lessons about Nadia Comaneci, and Tara coming in and dropping her questions and her comments too. So, man, just hop on board, subscribe to the podcast, or throw in a comment, whatever you need to do, man. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good week, everybody.